Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Steven Universe Retrospectives, and today we're going to be discussing episodes 11 and 12 of Steven Universe Future, In Dreams and Bismuth Casual. So, remember how last week me and Haley were talking about how this was getting to the portion of Steven Universe Future where Steven was starting to kind of deal with some issues? Well, that theme continues for In Dreams, as the episode begins with Steven walking on the beach at nighttime, and as he approaches his house, as Steven approaches his house, he sees that a party is going on, and, well, Steven goes up there, and inside there's everyone that he likes. There's Lars and the Off-Colors, there's Connie and the Crystal Gems, and Onion for some reason, and basically Steve's just all happy to join them because, hey, he saved the universe now! He can finally get some rest and party! So however, when he goes up to the door of his house and tries to get inside, the entire entryway vanishes. Like, the window, the door, pretty much it just turns into a solid wall, and as Steven's wondering what the heck's going on, he hears a deep voice calling to him. When he looks up, the face of the temple looks like Cookie Cat, who begins asking Steven what the hell he's doing here since no one needs him anymore. And once he gets that, well, the dock opens up and Steven ends up falling into a void of night. Yeah, it's all a dream. And basically, as Steven falls, he wakes up in a cold sweat as he wonders as he begins realizing he's been having dreams like this for a little while now. However, before Steven can ponder on this, he hears someone banging on his door asking for him, which immediately Steven's mood just turns bright as the person calling for him is Peridot, who once Steven enters the door rushes in with popcorn and drinks and asks Steven if he recorded It, and It is Camp Pining Hearts, specifically a reboot of Camp Pining Hearts that Steven and Peridot are excited for because they're fans of the original show. Hold on one sec. Apologies, dog stuff, but yeah, pretty much, yeah, there's a reboot of Camp Pining Hearts, and Steven and Peridot want to see it, and it's why Steven recorded it. As such, the pair of them are just excited as they go up to Steven's bedroom. They put in the tape of the recording, and while Steven does try opening up to Peridot a little about his issues, she kind of shushes him because she's just so excited to see the show with Steven, and so the pair of them just happily sit back, wave their Camp Pining Hearts flag, eat their popcorn, and drink their drinks before they both kind of revolve in horror, because it turns out the reboot of Camp Pining Hearts kind of sucks. The main characters are dry, there's barely anything to them, the cast is completely changed around, and apparently the cinematography sucks too. Put simply, it's just a bad show, and Steven and Peridot are just outraged at this because, well, Camp Pining Hearts was one of their favorite shows, and now it's been ruined, so to speak. So immediately they're just lamenting this whole thing, with Peridot even just kind of sad that Camp Pining Hearts is gone from her because it was something that distracted her from her woes back when she first arrived on Earth and all that. However, in the middle of this rant, the TV suddenly changes as things go static, and Steven's dream appears on the screen. Yeah, it turns out that when Steven had his nightmare the previous night, he kind of went pink. Like, we don't actually see this, but based on what we hear later, apparently Steven's heightened emotional state happens in his sleep, and as a result, his powers are literally projecting his dreams onto the television, which, since he was recording Camp Pining Hearts, also means he wound up recording his dream. As such, Steven, when he sees this, starts freaking out a little, but Peridot sees this as a golden opportunity because hey, if Steven can project his dreams onto the television, then they can just make their own reboot of Camp Pining Hearts, which when Steven hears this, he's like, oh yeah, I'd love to do that too. I mean, it'd be nice to fix a problem that doesn't involve saving the world. And so he and Peridot immediately get to work on what they're going to do for the plot. They begin putting down potential arcs, listing all the characters, and they begin wondering what they're going to do with the main ship of the show. Rodrigo and I forgot her name. Let's just say the main guy and the main girl. Basically, Steven's response to this, the main character needs a foil, and Steven has the perfect foil, a handsome life god, rugged, who's muscular, who is kind, that everyone loves, but he always has time for his good friend. Yeah, it's a self-insert, and the self-insert is literally named Stefan, and Peridot just accepts it hook, line, and sinker. But either way, yeah, they've got their reboot planned out. And so the evening comes around, Steven eats some chili to make his dreams more vivid, and so he goes down for a nap and begins dreaming the plot for their Camp Pining Hearts episode. And at first, everything goes well. It's schmaltzy and stupid and weird, and I kind of find myself internally groaning at it. But Stefan is there as he immediately goes to the main girl and tells her that there's an island where bird watching down the stream, and then when she buys it, he goes to the main guy Rodrigo and says that she's down there and being attacked by dangerous birds, that if they go downstream they'll be able to save her. And so Stefan and the main guy just go down the stream before things start getting trippy. As basically the Steven kind of loses the plot for the dream as his issues begin intermingling, as he starts seeing blue, yellow, and white diamond there in various forms, before Steven suddenly reverts back to his actual body, and then ends up capsizing his canoe, and starts capsizing his boat before he ends up waking up in a cold sweat. But either way, in the real world, Peridot thinks, hey, this is a good first attempt. Everything seemed to be going well until Steven started having his little freak out. So, while at first Steven is apologizing, Peridot just says they'll just keep doing it till they get it right. Personally, I think that they could just pick up where they left off and then splice it together with editing, but whatever. It's not my show. And so from there, Steven and Peridot continue this over and over. Steven going to sleep, and the dream continues kind of going wrong at the same integral point. With Stefan and Rodrigo, I'm sorry, I don't remember the main girl's name. I'm sorry, I just don't remember her name. They don't mention it very often. But either way, it's always at the same point. Hold on one second. Again, apologies, dog stuff. But yeah, like I said, Steven pretty much every night, pretty much every dream, Steven gets the same point with him and Rodrigo going downstream before things start going wonky. As first he dreams that Rodrigo becomes Dogcopter and flies away. Then he imagines that Rodrigo becomes the Crystal Gems and they fly away. To the point where Steven just dreams himself as a baby before once again capsizing. Pretty much just, it keeps ending in disaster one after another, and Peridot's just like, this isn't working. As such, the next day, as Steven's trying to kind of recuperate from all the bad dreams, Peridot presents a storyboard for the next episode of Camp Pining Hearts, and she thinks that where they're really failing is that they need more conflict, and so she thinks maybe the Stefan character could get together with the main girl behind Rodrigo's back, which at first Steven's not okay with because, again, Stefan's a self-insert, and Steven thinks that he'd be doing Rodrigo dirty. However, Peridot's like, why are you talking about this? This isn't you, it's just another character. We need conflict to move the story along, but Steven's not going for it, so Peridot thinks maybe they should just kind of call this whole thing off, as it's clearly getting to Steven more than it should, so she decides, whatever, I'll just go back to Little Homeworld. But as she leaves, Steven freaks out and says, okay, I'll do it. And so, once again, night comes around, and Steven is dreaming, and Steven is having the same dream again, only this time he implements Peridot's whole conflict in there, with Stefan getting with the main girl. I feel like I should know her name. It bugs me that I don't remember her name. I'm sorry. I remember Rodrigo, but I don't remember her. But either way, yeah, Rodrigo catches Stefan and this girl he's interested in as they're supposedly getting ready to kiss. Rodrigo is angry that his friend betrayed him. Only when Stefan looks back at the girl, it's Connie, who's kind of glaring at him, before Connie turns into Obsidian, who proceeds to crush Stefan under her foot. At which point, Steven seemingly wakes back up again, and as he tells Peridot he can't keep doing this, well, you immediately notice that something's not right. For one thing, Steven wakes up in the wrong room. Because the thing is, when Steven's house got repaired after it was destroyed near the end of the original Steven universe, when it was rebuilt, his room was completely restructured. It's a different design, and it's located in the relatively same location in the house, but it's a completely different design room. But when Steven wakes up, he's back in his old room, fully in his regular day-to-day clothes. And while he sees Peridot sitting in front of the TV, as he tries talking to her, she's silent. And when Steven goes up to her, when she looks at him, her gem and her glasses immediately are those colorful bars that you see on a TV when you have no signal. And yeah, it's clear that Steven's still dreaming. At which point the whole area changes, and when Steven tries looking around, he wonders where Peridot is, only to hear the music from the party from his other dream coming back as he sees Peridot walking towards the house to join it. Steven rushes after her, begging her not to go, at which point, when she finally gets to the door, he tells her, please don't go, as he manages to catch up to the dock with her, and like before, the door and the window vanishes, but with Peridot still on the dock, and when it opens up again, Steven just clings to the side so it doesn't fall through again, and the house just suddenly turns into those bars again, and at this point, Steven just breaks down right there in the dream as he just tells Peridot he's sorry that he can't do this for her, but he wants to still hang out with her, but he doesn't know how to hang out with her. He doesn't. This leads to a very good line in the episode that I think really does encapsulate what Steven's going through right now. As he says, I don't know how to be your friend. I don't know how to be your friend if I'm not fixing something. But he basically just says, I can't keep doing this anymore, but I want to keep hanging out with you. So please don't go. Please. And as he reaches out for her, the screen goes black. And when Steven finds himself waking up with Peridot standing over him as she's just panicking herself, as she's like, Steven, it's okay. I don't care about the show. I don't care about anything. I saw the whole thing. Please, it's okay. We don't have to keep doing this. It's all right. And yeah, Peridot just is kind of freaking out now too, as Steven wakes up, she just gives him a hug right there as she starts crying. She actually starts crying and even starts damning herself because, well, she kept pushing this and she kept thinking, why do I care about this? It's just a stupid show. I just want to hang out with you. It's okay. You don't have to keep pushing yourself like this. It's actually really sad, and I won't deny I almost cried. I really almost cried at this scene, but at which point Steven's like, it's okay. He just keeps hugging her back as he does want to keep hanging out with her, and it's just really sweet. And by the end, when they kind of make up for this, Peridot just is glad that Steven's just glad that Peridot understands, and they resolve that they can still hang out even if it's not over this stupid show. At which point Steven asks Peridot, do you think we could still keep watching it? At which point Peridot takes off her glasses, wipes away her tears, and says, sure. At which point they go back to watching the reboot, and they both just start laughing their asses off about how stupid it is. So hey, even if the show isn't good, it's at least worth something as riffing material, as they both begin making fun of it, and as Peridot just kind of laughs and says how terrible the show is, Steven just talks about how much he loves it as he looks at Peridot and just happy that she's still there. It's sweet. But from there, we get to the next episode in this lineup, Bismuth Casual. And in this episode, Steven, Connie, Pearl, and Bismuth are going to a roller skating rink to just, hang out, have some fun. Pearl wants Bismuth to come along because she wants to introduce Bismuth to some of her friends, and Steven and Connie are going just, they can hang out. So, it's just a social gathering, and basically everyone's a little excited to go through with this, though it's clear Bismuth is a little nervous, but again, there's still some positivity in the air. They're even listening to some tracks on the radio, and we can hear some more of Sour Cream and his DJ job as he's in charge of all that. And basically both Connie and Pearl hear songs they like, which is a song with Connie's favorite song being a song called "Don't Hold Me," and Pearl's is just literally a jingle for a mechanic's place, I think. But either way, the quartet manages to make their way to the roller rink, and basically all of them just kind of both sides just kind of split off to do their own thing. As Pearl introduces Bismuth to some of her friends, because apparently Pearl's been having a very active social life, as she introduces her to a few people that she's made friends with, and while Bismuth is clearly a little nervous to meet these people, she's able to ingratiate herself to them rather well. In the meantime, as Connie and Steven are hanging out, we end up meeting two of Connie's friends, a girl named Patricia and a boy named Daniel, who are both in cram school with Connie, and they're just, normal everyday kids. Sadly, Steven really can't really relate to them because of how normal they are. Excuse me a sec, Again, apologies. Chinny's waiting for people to come home, so she's keeping a vigil on my window. But anyway, like I said, Steven meets with Patricia and Daniel, and he has no idea how to talk to them, as it's been a while since he's had to be a normal kid. So, this stuff is kind of foreign to them, and as he tries relating to them by talking about his issues, i.e. as Daniel talks about how his mom tore into him over bad grades, Steven talks about how White Diamond literally tore into him to tear out his gem, it just gets awkward. Made even more so by the fact that as everyone goes out into the skating rink to, skate, Steven falls flat on his ass because he has no idea how to. And as such, he does do a lap around, but it's a struggle, and he's just hugging the wall the entire time. Meanwhile, Pearl and Bismuth are continuing to socialize, and Bismuth, for the most part, is making a good impression with Pearl's friends, and so Pearl decides that Bismuth doesn't need her right now, that everyone else, that her friends already like her, so Bismuth is good on her own. While Bismuth is a little nervous to kind of do this without Pearl, immediately Pearl's friends come up and they actually do socialize, so she starts feeling better. But in the meantime, Steven finally manages to make it back to the entrance of the rink and manages to get out, and Connie sees him struggling and asks if maybe maybe he wants to hang out if he wants to hang out off the rink. They could just get a table, get some tater tots, and just shoot the shit. But Steven just tells her, "No, it's fine. You can do all this. You can just keep skating. Have fun." And while Connie once again asks if he's sure about this, he says it's fine, and he sends her on her way. However, once she's gone, Steven does kind of lament and wonder what the hell he's even doing here. However, that's when Bismuth arrives, and they begin chatting, and basically Steven asks how Bismuth is going with socializing, and she says he's doing all right. But Bismuth admits to Steven that she's not here because she wants to make friends. Rather, she's here because she wants to spend time with Pearl. It's been a while since she and Pearl have just kind of hung out together, and yeah, it's very heavily implied here that Bismuth's got a thing for Pearl. And once Steven realizes this, Bismuth just immediately shushes him. But either way, while Bismuth may not be hanging out with Pearl as much as she would like to, she's at least happy that Pearl is out there hanging out with her friends, having a good time. In Bismuth's own words, she's like the Pearl she knew, but a little different. And which does make Bismuth happy, but however, in the meantime, as Steven talks about how he came here for Connie and how he thinks that Connie doesn't need him right now, Bismuth's mood just immediately does a 180, as she just immediately turns forceful. She slams her fist on the table and is like, "Steven, how long have you been thinking like this?" At which point, when Steven says it's been like a couple months, very much Bismuth gives the equivalent of "shut the F up, kid, she is your best friend." And pretty much she just tells him that Bismuth came here for Pearl, but Connie came here for Steven, and she wants to hang out with him. She of course wants to hang out with him. And while Steven tries talking about how he can't relate to her friends, Steven, again, Bismuth reminds him that he's friends with Connie, and they're still best friends, and if he can be friends with her, then he can be friends with her, then he can be socialized with them. And at the end of the day, even if he can't, it doesn't matter. Connie's still his best friend, and she came here to hang out with Steven, and she'll hang out with him no matter what. And as a result, this hypes Steven up, and so Bismuth does get him back on the rink as he rolls out there and calls out for Connie, and then falls flat on his face. It's actually kind of funny. But either way, Connie sees Steven, and when she goes to see what's going on, he does tell her about how he feels she's drifting away from him, how he misses the times they had, and ultimately that he has no idea how to skate. To which Connie kind of chuckles at that and says, "That's what you were worried about? It's fine if you don't know how to skate. I just like hanging out with you," which I like. And Steven says he does want to skate with her, which Connie says that she has an idea. At which point, she and Steven take each other's hands, and they fuse into Stevani, which is appropriate timing because Sour Cream, who is working at this rink, ends up putting on the song "Can't Hold Me," which Connie said was her favorite song, and so as Stevani ends up trading in Steven and Connie's skates for ones that fit their large feet, Stevani ends up going out onto the rink, and they actually are skating relatively well. They falter occasionally, but otherwise, they're like a pro, and they're just doing well. They're just going all over the place, and everyone's like, "Whoa, that's amazing!" Even Pearl's like, "I know them." But either way, Stevani's just doing a good job, and you can tell that Stevani's just having a good job. Is just having fun being themselves as they just going around, and Stevani's even hugging themselves, and it's just a nice time. And either way, and by the end of it, when the song wraps up, immediately Sour Cream names Stevani as a winner for a skating competition, and after that, Steven and Connie unfuse, and they're just kind of happy with Steven and Connie's friends even coming up and saying that was amazing what Steven and Connie did. As Steven says, it's just a thing that he got from his mom's side of his family, and he finally managed to relate to these kids, as Daniel says that the only thing he gets from his mom's family is stress, which Steven relates to. But ultimately, since Steven and Connie are the winners for the skating competition, that means that they get to choose the next song, and Steven knows what he wants, and so he goes up to Sour Cream, and they play that little jingle for the car mechanics, which when Pearl hears, and they even state that they want to dedicate it to Bismuth and Pearl. Once Pearl hears it, she goes and grabs Bismuth. They start having fun, getting close, dancing and skating on the rink. It's just a cute time. Get over here, Chindy. And so from there, after they have a little moment themselves, the episode ends as everyone starts skating around, and Steven at least is happy that he's spending time with Connie. So that's sweet. So yeah, my thoughts on these episodes. First, In Dreams. Oh boy, this one's definitely got problems. And I don't mean it in the terms of the quality. No. The episode is good. It's very good. But when I say problems, I mean Steven. Oh, sweet merciful mother of God. So remember how last week me and Haley were talking about how Steven was starting to deal with some very personal problems, and they were beginning to manifest in various ways, like with Steven kind of literally encompassing all of his friends in a giant dome as he was afraid they were leaving him, to the point where he began dealing with it in unhealthy ways, with him gardening the way he was before forming Cactus Steven, who started kind of taking in all of that self-loathing and becoming almost a monster. Well, we continue to see those negative emotions coming out in dreams, as we see Steven beginning to have nightmares revolving around them. And yes, it does kind of confirm what I was talking about last week, as in this case, Steven is afraid that he's losing his friends because they don't need him anymore. As we saw in the last episode, Steven was afraid that of his friends going off without him, but me and Haley were kind of able to infer that at the end of the day, what was causing Steven to have these emotions is the fact that his friends were going off in different directions, and Steven wasn't involved in any of it. Steven was used to being the mediator, the one that helped solve all these problems, the one that helped kind of push everyone in the right direction. But at the point in time that little graduation happened, everyone had gotten to a point in their lives where they didn't need Steven anymore. He helped push them along helped push them a little further along their paths, but now they can walk the rest of the way themselves. And Steven was not liking that, because by virtue of them being able to do that, it means that they kind of didn't need him anymore. And and In Dreams kind of confirms that was what's going on. As when Steven is having his nightmares, he's dreaming that everyone is partying and having fun, but when Steven tries to join them, he's just shut out because they don't need him anymore. He's not solving anyone's issues anymore. He's just unwanted because there are no more problems to solve. So what's Steven doing anymore? Does he even want? His friends don't need him. And as a result, it kind of starts showcasing Steven. And as a result, those problems immediately kind of start coming out in the worst ways possible, as we see as they start manifesting in Steven's emotional state. And well, when he becomes afraid that people don't need him anymore, it gets to the point where he kind of starts needing problems to solve, even if he has to create them himself. Now, I'm not saying he goes so far as to create big threats that he's got to take care of. No. He's not that nuts. But in this regard, one Peridot comes around and begins proposing the idea of Steven using his unintentional psychic dream. I'm blanking on the word. Give me a second. Sorry. Again, when Steven unintentionally begins using a psychic dream projection to broadcast his dreams on the TV, instead of recognizing what the dreams are and seeing them as a red flag, she just kind of starts thinking, we can use this to make our own reboot of Camp Pining Hearts, which Steven jumps on board with because it means that there's a problem for him to solve that he can deal with, that they can help Peridot with, which means he can be a part of Peridot's life. But when things keep going downhill and Steven's own personal issues get mixed in and start sabotaging the whole thing, Steven begins kind of going even further downhill because it's starting to look like there's no problem to solve, and it gets to the point where Steven's pretty much willing to do anything Peridot wants just to keep her there, because he can't stand the idea of her leaving him too. And it's fucking tragic. It's just sad. And the fact that we're seeing these personal issues be manifested in his dreams, probably one of the most bare places that someone can express these emotions, it's just showcased horribly. And seeing these tangible fears come to life in his mind, it's horrifying. It's genuinely emotionally horrifying. Seeing Steven, seeing Steven's perception of Peridot as she walks away, leaving him behind, and it tears at your heart because you know where this is all coming from, and you know that in the real world, Peridot would not just abandon Steven. No one would abandon Steven. They love Steven. They want him to stay a part of their lives. But in Steven's mind, that's not the case. Steven thinks that they're leaving him, that they're going off without him. And in it's a similar case with Peridot. He's afraid that he's losing her too. They've already lost this show that they've bonded over, and now they've already lost this show that they've been both bonding over because it's, well, the reboot sucks, and in their attempts to try and fix it, Stevens keeps dropping the ball because his personal issues keep getting mixed into the dream, in the story they're trying to create. And as Steven keeps, and basically, and when things keep going wrong, Steven keeps trying to push it further, which in turn just makes the dreams worse, because now he's being afraid that the nightmares he's having, or that these dreams that he's having, or his personal issues are getting in the way of solving this problem, which in turn makes the problems worse, and it's just an endless cycle. And eventually, and the fact that we see this all presented through Steven's point of view, and it's terrifying. It's sad, and when you see Steven just begging and pleading Peridot to not leave because he doesn't know, he can't, because he wants her to stay in his life, but he has no idea how to keep her there. It's just so sad. And and the way it's showcased in the dream with him just saying, "I'm sorry, I don't know how to be your friend unless I'm fixing something. Please just don't go." As he reaches out for her, and then the screen goes black. It just like tears at your heart. All made worse by the fact that Peridot was watching the whole thing. She finally is shown how badly these things are affecting this kid, how much they're hurting him, and she's just like, "Oh my god, I'm making this worse for him," and she just starts beating herself when she realizes that what she's been doing has been hurting Steven. And when he wakes up from the nightmare, she's like, "Steven, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you go through all that. Please, just stop, it's okay, we can still hang out even without campaigning hearts. We don't need this stupid show, you're still my friend." It really is emotional, and you can't tell by my big reaction there. It hits hard. And like I said, when I watched the episode, I could feel tears starting to well up because of just how emotional it was. Peridot seeing Peridot just saw this dark side to Steven. She saw how much pain he was in, and she immediately she's immediately angry at herself for not seeing it before. Just being laser focused on making this reboot happen the way she wants it to. And then when she realized just how badly it's been affecting Steven and what issues he's going through, she's just apologizing to Helen back, and she just reassures Steven, "I'm not going anywhere. You're my friend, and I don't want to leave you." It's genuinely sad, but also kind of uplifting in that sense. It's one of those emotional moments where you just want to cry. It's good, but at the same time still wrenches at your heart because you know what pain Steven is in, and just seeing Peridot react the way she does to Steven, it makes it even hurt. It hurts even more. And I think what helps too is that throughout the episode, Peridot was kind of unintentionally putting more pressure on Steven. Of course, she didn't mean to. It's Peridot. She has trouble reading a room, as we've hopefully established in previous episodes, but so likewise, as the episode went on, as throughout the episode, as Steven's negative emotions were manifesting, she was just kind of blind to all of them. When she first came by to watch Camp Pining Hearts with Steven tried opening up to her, but she just shushed him so they could watch the show. When she saw that Steven's dream was projected onto the screen, rather than seeing what was on the screen, she was laser focused on the fact that he could do this at all, and thought, "We could use this to make our own show." And then likewise, as Steven continued trying to recreate the story that they had created in his mind, as his personal issues continued intermingling, instead of Peridot realizing that these were symptoms of a larger problem, well, she just went to "No, we're just not getting it right. We need to fix this somehow." I like that it's Steven literally kind of smacking her in the face with his self-doubts, and the fact that she's a part of them now, that makes her realize how much she's hurting this kid and how much she does not want him to be hurt. She does care about him. It's just that when it's Peridot, like I said, Peridot is not good at expressing emotion. She has emotions. It's just that she's sometimes lives in her own little world. She's married. She doesn't really. I don't really know what the right word to say it. I know it's a kind of neurodivergence, but I don't really know what to think. I don't really know what to say. It's just that she's not good at expressing her emotions, and as a result, she's not always good at seeing emotions. She can't read a room, so to speak. But likewise, that doesn't mean that she doesn't care about Steven. It just means that she hasn't been noticing. And yeah, when she does finally take notice, it hits her like a truck because she quickly realizes she's now part of the problem, and she doesn't like that. She doesn't want Steven to be suffering just because of her stupidity. If anything, once she realizes that, she immediately just tells Steven, stop, stop, stop. It's okay. It's okay. We don't have to keep doing this. Just breathe. It's okay. I'm not going anywhere. It's emotional and sweet and sad, and just by the end, when Steven and her finally just decide to sit down and watch the new Camp Pining Hearts, even if it sucks, they still treasure it because, well, it's still something they both hold dear, and it's still something they both hold dear. And at the end of the day, it's not about it's not the show that keeps them together. It's just the fact that they can hang out and just have something fun and silly to enjoy with each other as they both just sit down and riff on it and laugh at how dumb it is. It's good. I like it, and it really just wrenches at your heart. And quite frankly, I think with how much of an emotional reaction it had, I might actually say this might be my second favorite episode of Steven Universe Future. Of course, Snow Day still wins because I love the zaniness of that one. But again, this one hits a lot. This one hits hard in the emotional center, and I did, and ultimately it's just really good. Kind of going back to Steven's issue for a minute. And as I was watching the episode, and even when I was thinking about it prior to doing this vlog, I began to realize something about why Steven is having the reactions he is. The thing is, part of the reason, because here's the thing. While Steven definitely believes that in order to be a part of his friends' lives, he needs to have a problem that he needs to fix, the reason why Steven doesn't want his friends to leave his life is because he's having these issues. I think part of the reason why Steven has not been having, why Steven's mental health has been as strong as it has for as long as it has, despite the fact that he now finally has a moment where he can breathe, is because he has a support system. And we've seen that in previous episodes. In the original Steven universe, when Steven got close to confronting the negative emotions, what helped calm him down was his connection to his friends, to Connie, to the Crystal Gems. And likewise, those things usually were able to help him get through the dark times and get him to a more stable point. But now Steven's at a point but now everyone's moving on. They're at points in their lives where they don't need Steven to fix their problems anymore, and they're leaving. For example, Sadie Killer and the Suspects broke up because everyone in the band wants to do their own thing. Sadie and Shep are going off and doing their own music career. We've got Jenny doing her little phone jackets business, which is still kind of dumb, but whatever. We got Buck Dewey going to medical school. We got Sour Cream being a DJ. Hell, even within other business, Lars is going back into space now. So again, Steven is feeling like he's being left out, but he needs these people. And he needs them more than they need him, pretty much. And it's probably part of the reason why when we got to the prickly pear episode and Steven started gardening, why he started naming all the flowers the names of his friends. Because Steven needs that support system, because on his own he can't deal with these issues. He has no one to talk to, no one to work through them with, and ultimately Steven just kind of wants someone there for him. But ultimately he believes that in order to have those people in his life, there needs to be a problem that he needs to solve for them. There needs to be emotional issues that he can help them work through. There has to be some conflict that he can resolve. There has to be something that he can do just to keep them there. And the fact that and ultimately, when there isn't a problem, Steven freaks out because if there isn't a problem, that means they don't need him. And if they don't need him, they don't need to be friends with him. And if they're not friends with him, then who's he going to turn to for help? And it's tragic, and it hurts like hell. And I think that's further emphasized in the episode, because throughout in Dreams, Steven kept trying to Steven did try to talk to Parrot about what he was going through, but she was just so laser focused on the reboot that she didn't notice, like I said. But likewise, as it became clearer as things continued not working out, and Steven was afraid that Parrot would leave, it just made him more and more afraid of losing her, because he just because she was his friend. He didn't want her to just go away because of all the because there was no problem to fix anymore. So as a result, hold on again. Again, sorry, I wanted to fix the lighting, but I kind of already lost track of what I was talking about. But yeah, essentially at the end of the day, Steven is just concerned with losing his friends and thus losing his support system, as he's clearly dealing with shit. And yeah, that's what I was talking about. Like, throughout the episode, he's trying to get Tevera to notice his issues, but since she's so laser focused on doing the reboot or fixing the reboot, she doesn't take notice until it's literally just it's literally smacked in her face. And well, not literally smacked in her face, but it's not. But either way, it's not until that moment when the Peridot finally realizes it. And basically, like I said, by the end of the day, it's not about the show. It's just about spending time with your friend. And it's really good stuff for Steven's character because it just shows how damaged this kid is. He knows he needs his friends right now, but he's afraid that they'll leave him and thus he will be alone, left to his own devices and with these dark thoughts just floating around in his head. And he just doesn't want that. He wants to, and thus he lashes out and tries holding on to his friends in any way he can. And it's tragic, but ultimately I do like that by the end of the episode, Peridot does realize her fault in all this and does actually make up with Steven. It's sweet, tragic, but also uplifting. So on the whole, I'll say that In Dreams is just a really damn good episode, full of emotion and full of emotion, some quirky humor here and there, especially with the Camp Pining Hearts dream, which I'll give credit where it's also due. The montage of Steven going through his dreams while showcasing his issues on full display is also kind of amusing, especially with the dog, especially when Steven gets to the point where he starts dreaming about Dog Copter, which is clearly meant to be a representation of his friends leaving him, but to have it first be Dog Copter who leaves him, and then suddenly it's the crystal gems that are flying away exactly like Dog Copter. I don't know why, that made me laugh. It made me laugh more than it should have. So on the whole, In Dreams is still a great display of what's going on through Steven's mind, while also giving us some very heartwarming moments between him and Peridot. So good stuff. But then of course we also get to Bismuth Casual. This one is definitely a lighter episode in terms of tone, but still it still kind of deals with Steven in his emotional state. Albeit this one definitely has a lot more positivity to it. As in this case, the main conflict isn't Steven feeling like he's going to be left behind and abandoned, well that is a part of it, but rather it's Steven feeling like that he can't connect with people like he could before. As in this case, he's now in a regular social situation where he has to interact with people, where he has to make friends with normal kids around his age, and he has no idea how to do that. He doesn't know how to relate to kids his age because he's not like kids his age. Whereas kids his age at this point are going to school, making friends, and having their family on their asses. Steven has been fighting monsters, saving the galaxy, while also having his family on his ass. It's essentially just the kids that, basically, Steven does not know how to talk to people. And while he has been able to make social connections with people in the past, well, those were kind of special circumstances, as when he first made those connections with those people, he was still at a young age and still was more chipper and hyperactive and thus could easily more relate to them. He was a lot more bare with his feelings, and thus the kids could relate to him more in that regard. But here he is now a bit more mature and dealing with a lot more, I'm gonna say, adult problems. I say adult even though he's like 16. But in this case, the problems he's dealing with are not the problems that he's dealing with is literally just trying to find that levity. In a way, it's kind of like if you take a soldier who was put in a war zone and then just put him back into calm. The trauma they went through in that setting does not just go away, and it's hard for them to adjust back to real life. And it's a similar case with Steven in this episode, as he has really no idea how to talk to these people, but at the same time, the people are still trying to make an effort to get to know him. Or more specifically, Connie is pushing that. Like Pearl, she does want Steven to get to like her friends, but her main goal at the end of the day is that she just wants Steven to feel comfortable, and thus to try and make him feel comfortable, she proposes doing things that don't involve skating around the rink. So like she says, "Hey Steven, maybe I could go off the rink and we could just go hang out over here." Because at the end of the day, she does still care about Steven, but since Steven is still kind of feeling like that he has to be the good person in all this, starts lightly pushing her away, saying, no, go hang out with your friends. I'm fine, and even though he's not fine. But it's also kind of sad in that regard because Steven is just trying his best to put on a brave face, even though inside he's just as afraid of Connie leaving him as everybody else is. The only difference is that unlike with Steven feeling like he was losing Peridot, he has Bismuth there. As once Bismuth sees that Steven's dealing with these issues, she just goes full mama bear and is like, Steven, she's your best friend, and she came here to hang out with you. And I love that she basically just kind of gives Steven the business and lets him know that if he just talks to Connie, everything should work out. And ultimately, what I like is that this does help showcase why Steven does want these people in his life. Because with Connie by his side, he's able to get that confidence back. They've used it to Stevani, and they're able to skate perfectly on the rink, with maybe some wobbling here and there, but otherwise they do such a damn good job that everyone on the skating rink ends up cheering for them, and Stevani's declared the winner. So in that regard, Steven feels more content because he at least knows that Connie is still going to be a part of his life. And it's actually really sweet and charming because it helps reaffirm that Steven is not alone. Connie is still there for him, and she makes it clear she's not going anywhere anytime soon. She just wants to spend time with Steven. Sorry, if you hear whimpering, it's because Chindy sees dogs outside. But it's still nice that Steven still has someone in his life who wants to be there for him and still wants him to feel comfortable. And likewise, it does lead to a pretty nice and wholesome moment that I think just kind of fills me with warm fuzzies. Especially since once Steven and Connie have that moment, Steven does start getting that confidence back as he's able to more easily socialize with Connie's friends. So again, I dig it. It's some nice stuff. But in that same regard, Steven's not the only focus of this episode. No, the episode's called Bismuth Casual, so we should also talk about what's going on with Bismuth and Pearl. And I like that we actually have an episode with Bismuth and the front and center. Thing is, because Bismuth wound up officially being redeemed so late into the original show's run, she didn't really have a lot of episodes dedicated to her beyond her debut episode and the episode where she reformed. So as a result, we haven't really been allowed to see her in many social situations. So having the main focus of the episode be Pearl bringing Bismuth to a social situation and trying to get her to open up to Pearl's friends, it's actually some good stuff. Again, hold on one second. Again, apologies. Chindy is kind of being a active force today. But like I said, it's nice to see Bismuth in this actually being a center focus in the episode and actually seeing her trying to get her to socialize. But in this regard, there's really no big... But I guess if you can really have a problem with her being a central focus is that there's no real big conflict for her except for, like Steven, she's trying to spend some time with Pearl. Now, unlike Steven, she's secure in the fact that while she and Pearl aren't hanging out as much as she likes, she's still happy that Pearl is out there, having fun. And ultimately, at the end of the day, she's just happy that Pearl is happy. She likes seeing her going out, talking to people, and so forth. And while there's a part of her that you can tell wants to spend more of the evening at Pearl's side, at the same time, she sees Pearl as putting in all this effort to try and be close to her, and get her to get Bismuth to make friends, that she doesn't mind that Pearl isn't spending as much time to her. At the best, she's just happy that they're alone, that they're just happy, and she's just happy seeing Pearl happy. And like Steven, she doesn't want her attitude to take Pearl out of her having a good time. Which, ironically, kind of leads Steven to kind of giving her a dose of her own medicine, as when Bismuth hears that Steven is having doubts about Connie wanting to spend time with him, she immediately just starts reasserting, no, Connie came here to spend time with you, and that's what she wants to do. So what you're going to do is go out there and talk with Connie, because she is going to want to spend time with you, and that's exactly what she wants, and because she wants to spend time with you, and you need to recognize that. Again, it's some good stuff, and essentially it just helps Steven and Connie reconnect. So to kind of return the favor, when Steven and Connie end up winning the skating championship, they play a song and immediately dedicate it to Bismuth and Pearl. And what I love is that when Bismuth hears that statement, she freaks out, like, oh no, 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 no. Like, I don't, like, no, 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 what are you doing? Like, it's clear that she's feeling nervous about this. I get the impression that while Bismuth is a very sociable person, she's not good with people per se. So it's like she's not good with people per se. She's sociable, but also has trouble meeting new people. So it's kind of quirky, but also fun. Like she can, like when she gets to know you, it's clear she can be your best friend. But when you're on, hold on again, people are home. All right, I might need to wrap this up soon. But yeah, like I said, I like that Steven does end up returning the favor for Bismuth later by, playing Pearl's favorite tune, dedicating it to her and dedicating it to them both, and they go out skating, which, like I said, it's kind of cute seeing Bismuth react the way she does. So at the end of the day, in a way, this episode does continue addressing more of Steven's personal issues, but does kind of show the lighter side of things, because it shows in some cases the fears are unfounded, and that ultimately Steven does still have people in his life to rely on. And that, yeah, if he should falter, they'll still be there to help lift him up. Like in the case of Connie, wherein while Steven feels like he's holding her back, she just pretty much lets him know, I'm always going to be there to help you because I care about you and I want to still be a part of your life just as much as I know you want to still be a part of mine. I like it. It's sweet. And it just ultimately just kind of fills you with the warm fuzzies. And then likewise, this also kind of acts as a dual-sided. This also works as double-sided in the case of Bismuth, because we get to see more of how she operates as a part of the group. And I liked how the episode unintentionally showcases how she's kind of adopted a mama bear kind of personality when it comes to Steven. Like, we already know that she likes helping people and is very intense when it comes to her support of people, but I like that the instant that she sees that Steven's dealing with something, her first instinct is, okay, I need to fix this right now. And she just immediately starts giving Steven a pep talk and telling him, it's okay, kid, she's there for you. It's really sweet, and I do at least like that it's shown how their relationship has continued to develop, and it's at one point it's at. While also kind of showcasing Bismuth dealing with her own little thing with Pearl, which is just kind of sweet and adorable, even if it's just a little thing in the episode. So on the whole, Bismuth Casual, just kind of a sweet episode filled with warm fuzzies, while still addressing some of the serious issues, but dealing with them in a lighter way compared to In Dreams. So on the whole, In Dreams, damn good episode with a lot of intense emotions that are very much examined in full. And Bismuth Casual, a lighter episode that deals with similar issues, but in a much emotionally lighter way, while still allowing Steven some birth, as he and Connie are still able to connect, despite the fact they're kind of in two different worlds still. It's at the end of the day pretty sweet and nice, while also giving us some nice stuff with Bismuth as we see her be more center stage in the episode, showcasing how far she and Steven have come in their current relationship, and showcasing her as a nice little mama bear archetype. So again, good stuff. I like it. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say. I thank you for watching. I apologize that I kept pausing and having to continue on, but again, this is the consequences of what happens when you have literally no budget and you record on your tablet with no editing equipment. So yeah, apologies for all that stuff, but I do hope you enjoyed the video regardless, and well, while we have seen Steven has come to the realization that Connie can help him with his issues, well, we start to see kind of the double-edged sword to that mindset as next time we see Steven's issues come back with a vengeance. So till then, I hope you have a good night and take care.